Bruce Pearson, who is a good friend of mine, ex-Coastie. We were both in the Coast Guard, so it's like a little ring knockers club that we have. Without further ado, Bruce, why don't you come on up and introduce yourself?
While Joe's setting that up, I want to thank everyone for coming out today. We appreciate it. We hope you enjoy today. You're going to have, other than me, you're going to have some very interesting speakers. But I just want to note how much work that Joe and Jen and a lot of the folks, his wife, certainly a daughter, have spent putting this together. If you haven't run one of these things, my friend Bruce Tango from Ghost Hunters is back there. He knows what it's like to do live events. He and I have been doing them all over for years. And I think that as a journalist and a broadcaster, I've worn many hats. I've been very lucky, and one of the things I've always said is part of the problem with this, with any area of investigation, whether you're a casual observer or somebody who's serious and has spent a lot of their career professionally and semi-professionally investigating, it's good to know the context and the background to some extent of who you're listening to. My discussion is not about me, but I think it's helpful if you know a little bit about my background. And next year, believe it or not, from looking at me, you can believe it, but it'll be my 50th year in broadcasting and media. So I pretty much worked for Marconi when he started. Not quite that far back. The point is that I've seen a lot of the investigative aspects of this area of endeavor and investigation and go from extremely cursory and anecdotal and observable personal events and personal observation through many phases to the point where technology, as is in many areas of our society, is changing everything. We're certainly aware of that with the internet and these portable computers we are now linked to inexorably. I have worked in pretty much every aspect of media and broadcasting. I spent about 10 years, almost full-time, doing documentary work all over the world. A lot of aviation documentary work. We did a very in-depth documentary. It's still playing on the Concorde with British Airways. We were in the first flight into the Soviet Union under Glasnost. So I've spoken to a lot of pilots, and certainly I don't have the background that Joe has, but he'll speak to his experiences. There's a lot of not refutable information out there, observation data, which is coming to light now. Between ATEP and Lou Elizondo and Colonel Fravor and the other folks that have come forward, we have turned a corner. Unfortunately, COVID and the world coming apart at the seams is kind of taking the spotlight into other areas right now. Spent a lot of time in New Mexico back in the 70s. We witnessed a very well-documented event that we're not going to talk about today, but a very, very well-documented, even in the public media event at Cannon Air Force Base in Clovis back in '77. That's not what today's about. What I wanted to tell you is I'm a secondary participant, as you'll see in this. I'm not a first-hand observer of this. It was related to me back when I was in college out in the Southwest by my father, who was up in Alaska teaching school in a little Eskimo village, Inuit village, I should say correctly, of Unalakleet. And I'm talking about a very isolated fly-in, fly-out village. I never connected the dots until Linda Howe on her show one night interviewed a gentleman who was a son of a Western Electric Bell Labs employee who related how his father said he had also been at this facility west of Mount McKinley. And just a ancient archaeology background to this, to put it in context, there have now been, I would say, investigated pyramids all over the world. Many in China, in Romania, obviously in Mexico. So the pyramid concept of being disseminated around the world is something that's pretty well known now, pretty well documented. The question, as Christopher Dunn, of anybody that's ever looked into it, wrote a book called The Power Plant at Giza. He makes a very compelling case, and I have a background as a broadcast engineer also, as a second degree in that. I actually have a radar endorsement on my FCC first phone license, so don't use it very often, but you know, it's another little checkbox. But anyway, Christopher Dunn makes a very compelling case that the Giza pyramid is actually a microwave amplifier and transmitter. Whether you believe that theory or not, it takes a lot of investigation, but certainly a lot of the rhetoric that was produced and provided by Hazi Zawas and some of the people, the Egyptologists over the years, of why the chambers were in the pyramids, and a lot of the explanations really don't hold up against the scientific scrutiny based on the book that he wrote in the examination of the interior and what they possibly could be used for. I recommend that book to you if you're interested in this, but what is the context and why am I bringing this to your attention? If there are, as some people believe, a use for these pyramids beyond ceremonial use or religious uses around the world, they may be, in fact, relating back to Marconi through Nikola Tesla, a generating and transmitting facility. It's a fascinating concept, and you know, those of you who are serious, and you wouldn't be here if you weren't, and have investigated this, I'm asked all the time, literally all the time, well, you believe in this stuff. It's not a belief system, but I've often told people, if you spend more than 5 minutes listening to sound bites and really start researching the documentation out there and folks that are truly experts in their field and look into it, it'd be hard to believe that there's not something to it. I've spoke at Pilots Association meetings for 10 or 15 years now, and I've had my share of little aluminum foil hats on the podium and the remarks and so on, but I've often told people when I've done my presentations, if you at the end of this think that it's all still baloney and nonsense, then I'll buy you dinner wherever you want. I've never bought anybody dinner yet, and I've had some very serious, very tough, and Joe, you'll confirm this, pilots are not the most easygoing guys. They got an ego about the size of, you know, Rhode Island. So to have people say, well, now you really ticked me off because now I can't make fun of this anymore, that's a sea change. So without going further into it, why are we talking about pyramids? Well, there may in fact be something that was actually discovered theoretically during the construction of the DEW line, Distance Early Warning Line, which was a radar system to prevent a sneak attack from Russia over the North Pole. And in theory, this is a power generating device. It's underground, it's huge, that the US government has known about, but really kept it, as in so many things, off the radar, if you will, if you'll forgive the pun. So the way that I came about knowing about this, and the fact that the synchronicity of hearing Linda's report, and I've known Linda since 1977 when we looked at cattle mutilations, another issue that I would welcome you to look into in detail. She's a world expert on that out in New Mexico. She's a very good researcher, as is Jen. Frank Chili, the folks that are here, Joe has worked with this stuff, and I just want to thank you for coming, and I hope that you get some value out of what I'm going to show you. So this is a Travel Channel show. It's called the Alaska Triangle. It's based on the reality as Alaska's cars or aircraft, and weather's terrible, and there aren't a lot of airfields, so a lot of people go down because of weather and pilot error and so on and so forth. So they lose a lot of people that way, and a lot of people are never found. But 16,000 people are a lot of folks to disappear. And so the concept is, you know, what's going on in Alaska? How come, you know, Hale Boggs and the people that died that were, you know, the congressmen that died inexplicably, they never found the body or the plane. What are some of the explanations besides weather and pilot error and aircraft failure and that type of thing? I'm not with the NTSB, so whatever it is. But this is one of the stories that came out, and the corroboration I think you'll find is interesting. We're going to watch this real quick without me talking any further. Joe, if you could grab the lights. I think we got audio. We're set. I think. No, we're set. We're set. Yeah. Yeah, we kind of MacGyvered something up there. Okay, thanks, Dave. So take a look at this, see what you think, and then I'll answer any questions you have or elaborate any further. And I thank you for your patience. Well, that's not up.
But there's one story that, if true, dwarfs all others.
It is one of the biggest unsolved mysteries of my career.
And evidence is now coming to light of what could be one of the greatest military...
Unfortunately, folks, I apologize for that, but we had to do some last-minute changes here on the technology, so...
It's a mystery that would spark an extraordinary conspiracy.